Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Umlink Energy Speaks Back, powered by Hark. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm your host. And weekly, I present to you experts from around the world. Welcome to episode 80, and my special guest today helps young people to start their careers in media by training and accrediting them in photography, videography, reporting and journalism in the CSR and sustainability sector. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. On our journey of the knowledge that we want to share with you today, I'd like to thank our sponsors, and they are Cinefex for their insulation coating, Smart Cool for their AC initiatives, Umlink, who are taking the confusion out of energy management, Hark Systems, renowned for their energy software, Clean Energy Revolution for their knowledge and networking through LinkedIn, B2B Energy for the 11-week energy program, Alexis Energy for the power management, led by Vision for LED and controls, Watts for electronics and EV transition, and Carbon Black Global for their waste to energy initiatives. And lastly, our certificate partners, Esther Energy. Our special guest today needs no introduction to his industry. So without any further ado, I give you Ben Wright. So good afternoon, Ben. And I'm hesitating because I'm saying good afternoon to you. It's good evening from me in Thailand. And I'm presuming it's good afternoon for yourself,
It's
Ben.
a good afternoon, but good evening to yourself.
Thank you very much. And whereabouts are you currently, Ben?
So we're based in North London.
Right.
Yeah. And depending on client work, we visit clients all the way around London. So quite a wide area.
And I've just finished my day in 35 degrees. So what's your temperature been like in London?
It's been a bit chilly the last couple of days. Yes, it has. But after a very exceptional last couple of weeks of warm weather. So
yeah, I know. I left the UK and it was really nice, and was walking around in t-shirts, which was a lovely way to finish our time there. So Ben, we've been talking on LinkedIn, and we've just been having a chat offline. For the benefit of our audience today, could you give us some background into yourself and tell us about your origin story?
Yeah, certainly. So, as I touched on, with my background has mostly been in project management and investment banking, and it was quite a stark change to what I'm doing now. So 3 years ago, set up a media business, which has a primary aim of creating strong social media content for companies with an ESG and CSR thread running through that, but also to help young people at the start of their careers by giving them commercial work experience. A very, very different background to investment banking and project management, which I was doing in the past.
Right, and then how long was you doing in the banking world?
So it was 11 years in investment banking and 5 years before that in consulting.
Right.
But nice to be giving something back, doing something that we find worthwhile and rewarding.
And is that what's caused the transition from banking to this media side?
Yes, I think so. I mean, with myself and my co-founders, we were all involved in very different things prior to coming together to form the Content Creatives. But I think that was a primary driver for us, was that we had been very lucky in our careers. We've been having great opportunities. We've been on a trajectory which I think the industry is now, the environment's changed for young people. I think there were a lot of opportunities in the past. That's all changed. And for us being a bit further on in our careers, to be able to create something that is meaningful for us, rewarding for us, but also helpful to young people, to give them the opportunities that we had, which they don't have at the moment.
Yeah. And are you finding that younger people are being more the drivers regarding climate change and the environment than the, dare I say, the people with grey hair?
I think, yeah, there's what I've seen is a sort of apathy amongst, I'd say, older generations. There's an energy and a drive amongst younger people for change, and a less of a focus on, I guess, commercial aspects of our lives, which it has been very much driven by the advertising marketing industries. I think that's kind of that message has been lost, quite rightly so, on a lot of younger people. That drive for the latest fashion, for the latest trends, that's moving on. I think the commercial, I guess, sort of the look and feel of things, that's changed. There is a drive for more sustainable options, for energy saving, to be kinder to the environment. I think that is something that, yes, the younger generations have driven forward, and we've now seen from protests. If you look at the age, the demographic of those protests, it is very indicative of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. We've always had protesting, haven't we? You know, I worked at a nuclear power station when I was about 18. I started working at a nuclear power station because I had to wait until I was 18. And on a regular basis, they were trying to stop us from working at the power station because they wanted to cause disruption. Because the nuclear power, though it's a clean tech as such, the waste was going towards making bombs for uranium as such. So that was the reason why they was protesting, basically. It wasn't about any other issues. So we have always seen protesting, but for me, we're starting to see more and more of that now, and it's starting to become more visual, as you know, regarding social media. And I think we had COP, and I think that was a big driver. We had the people like Sky News had their own programs about it. BBC had their own programs about climate change, and we've seen a lot of media focus on this now. And I don't know whether it's because I do a lot of work on LinkedIn, and I'm probably the algorithms following me and trying to sort of feed me with that information. But even people I talk to outside of the industry, I do sense there's a lot more thought about it and a lot more drive in that industry now.
Absolutely. And I think the impression I've got from certain sources, certainly within investment banking, I'm still in touch with various people within that world, the overriding message is that we're still waking up to the importance of it. So I think we're going to be looking at more sort of Q3, Q4 of this year, where businesses will start to build it into their ethos a lot more. And I think a lot depends on the size and the history of the organisation, how quickly they will take on these aspects. But I suspect as the internal staffing changes within companies, and with certain demographics of staff becoming more aware and more keen to bring as part of the ethos of the business. And I think that's what will drive change. I think it comes from two sources. The changes will be within, for the staff, requesting that, that we're not going to work for you if you don't adopt ESG strategies. But also there's probably a catch up from marketing and PR side, where businesses are going, actually, yes, we do need to adopt this. We're going to lose customers or fail to gain new customers unless we adopt these strategies.
So I had a call from one of my clients today. They were requested by an airline that the airline wanted to know, it's a hotel group, and they wanted to know how much energy per year these hotels are utilising or using per bedroom. And I'm presuming that they've got benchmarks. So if that was above a certain benchmark, they know there's no focus on the environment within that hotel group. So they would be ticked off the list, or they would go on the list if they gave the wrong answer. So what with ESG, and I'll be honest, ESG wasn't on my radar. I was hearing people talk about it more in America rather than in the UK. But just recently, I've been
hearing that word a lot from organisations. Where did it all start? The ESG criteria for organisations.
Well, I think ESG is quite relatively new as a term. It's a sort of catchphrase which I'm seeing now is becoming more prevalent. But it's really a follow-on from CSR, corporate social responsibility. And from the research that I've done, that's been around for quite a while.
Right.
I'd say good 10, 15 years. There's always been a CSR angle, but I think it's probably hasn't had the voice that is relevant in the boardroom downwards to what it is now. So with CSR, that was a term bandied about quite a bit. And possibly without very little energy or impact or even attention on that term. It wasn't important. Then maybe put a CSR statement as an afterthought somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think because, as you say, going back to your earlier point, there's a younger generation that's now really putting this forward front and center. Even Greta Thunberg has done a wonderful job at amplifying a voice which even David Attenborough had started a long time ago. But it's really thanks to people like her and social media that businesses are now waking up to it. And that CSR term, from what I can see and make out, that has now moved more into ESG, which is environmental social governance. And I think that's more encompassing because you can, if you're struggling perhaps with the environmental side for a business, which is often very difficult to do, there'll be other angles of the ESG universe that you can cover. So, how you treat your staff, certain maritime organizations are failing miserably at that at the moment. It encompasses a lot of different areas.
Yeah. So how, when you look at an organization, how do you work directly with organizations regarding this?
Yeah, so because we're in essence showcasing ESG initiatives, there's two angles, I guess, to that, in that it's important for them to pick and choose the right angle that they're keen to promote. It's up to us to a degree to decide, is that something that actually does still fit into ethics and standards? If somebody's greenwashing, if they're doing something disastrous over here and just promoting this, then there's a certain moral obligation for us to choose, well, no, actually, we won't showcase that.
Yeah.
But yes, on our side, if we see an initiative, there's a company we're working with that's showcasing their interior structures and how sustainable they are and how environmentally friendly they are, energy saving. That's something that it's in a difficult industry, it's a really good thing to be showcasing. So we're very proud to be doing that for them. But yeah, it comes from different angles as to what they want and what we see.
And will say organisation A look to organisations B, how they're set up before they look at trading or investing? Is that where it starts to sort of really work? Is, I will only deal with someone who's got a very high scoring level of it, rather than they haven't got one at all, no policy at all. So for me, I wouldn't really work with that organisation. Is that how it's going to sort of long-term pan out?
I think it is. I think you're right. Yes, on a B2B perspective, people are going to look at their supply chains, their partners in ever more detail. And there's going to be a balance to be struck there. How do you weigh up a long-standing business relationship versus the cost savings versus what your customers and your clients and even your employees will perceive you if they look at you and go, well, hang on a minute, why are you're stuck in this long-term contract, but with a very unethical business, a very unethical partner? Do you continue with that? So I think that's going back to the recent example in the news, costs have been outweighed against social responsibility towards staff.
Yeah. And you mentioned social media platforms. Is there any particular platforms that's favoured, or is it just across all of the platforms?
In terms of the messages,
the messages,
the communities, or
yeah.
Well, the most exciting platform, which I think is taking off now, is TikTok. And I think whereas Instagram was a very much a favoured platform to put messages across, and still is, certain geopolitical events have certainly overtaken Instagram and getting that message across, which is really important. But yeah, with TikTok, which is used to be seen as certainly a younger audience, but actually that can't be discounted, because that's very beneficial to see what's important to that younger audience, what messages they're putting out, and what's the drive behind that. What's their passion? What are they passionate about? So I think, yes, from an environmental perspective, TikTok and Instagram are very strong platforms to put across that message of wanting to change, wanting the businesses to change, and us as individuals.
Because isn't Instagram owned by Facebook, and is there a link up there?
Yes, I think this is with Meta and their impact. I think this is.
So I know when I post stuff on Instagram, it appears on my Facebook.
That's right. Yes, so there is that.
There's links, isn't there?
Sort of a tenuous link between the two, and that the control that these organisations have, and what point do they filter? I think that's probably a whole new conversation that for a different time. But there's a lot of power being wielded by very few companies. Yeah.
And what is it down to? Is it do you build strategies for them, and do you look at whether they should be putting articles on there, whether they should be putting together videos or text or pictures? How is it governed regarding what you do for that organisation?
It's very much listening to what they envisage the message to be. It's something that over time we've embraced the fact that we are storytellers in a way, and that I think is what we all need to be doing as individuals and as a business, is telling the right story that accurately reflects what somebody's achievements are and what a business is achieving in that arena. So to find a compelling story, I think is an important part, to find out what a company is doing, picking out the pieces that are most important to talk about, and then representing those with video and stills. And sometimes the old little extra like time-lapse photography helps as well. And, but that matches the platforms very well, certainly YouTube, Instagram. That works really well to tell that story.
And because you're using the younger generation, you should be keeping on top of the social media. They're going to be driving it, aren't they? Because that's where social media has been driven from. I know it's a bit of a cliche, really, but I don't really understand TikTok. I've got TikTok, and I find myself being sucked. I suppose that's what the draw is. I find myself being sucked into it, and before I know it, I've wasted half an hour because I've gone through all these different videos. I suppose there you are. I've just given the answer, haven't I? Basically,
it's a very they've been very clever to draw people in.
Yeah.
And yes, the algorithm can work in our favour in that, if we're after content around a particular subject that we're keen on, sports, cars, what have you, then it will find more of that content, which is great. But yes, it can work against people, and it is a time waster, as you say sometimes.
What about so my favourite, and I always call it my office, is LinkedIn. So is that because of business? That's more of a business to business package, isn't it, for business owners, business operatives as such? Is that a key element of the social media driving?
I think it's probably A, the most important, B, the most far reaching, and C, in actual fact, the stats show very clearly that for business, LinkedIn is a very strong platform. I think it's underutilized. And I think based on content I've just put out myself, it's really interesting to see what feedback you get, what engagement you can get based on that content. And I think, like yourself, if you put out content that is helpful and useful to people, and people find, it's not in any way after a particular goal, but just to help people. I think that's a really strong ethos on LinkedIn. I think that's what really brings the community together. And I found people trying to sell to me straight away. It just never works. But actually building those relationships, it's a hugely important part of LinkedIn, definitely.
Unfortunately, we have to fight the algorithm because people do try to sell straight away. That's why the algorithms have been put in place to stop that. It doesn't stop that well because I still get people saying, "Oh, by the way, use orange branding. That's a good reason for me to be talking to you about branding." You get that stupid approach, don't you? As such, regarding why they should be doing business with you. So I've seen a lot of trends and changes within the industry over my career of 42 years. Do you see this evolving more from the social media side, or do you see it starting to plateau regarding what we've got?
In terms of the platforms available, or
the platforms available, what the organisations are requiring, what their drives are. Is it likely to expand more? Are we likely to see all organisations go down this route?
I think there's a reluctance by organisations to use social media, but it's becoming more mainstream. And I think once a company adopts social media, there's an interesting change and angle of social media, which I think companies are slow to adopt and still need to. And that is the reluctance to be more personal, to be more direct and engaging to an audience. And I think we're all guilty of it in that when we want to post something, we want it to be perfect. And that puts us off on posting on social media because it isn't perfect. And I think younger generations have certainly embraced that more. And content that is successful actually isn't content that's been professionally filmed or has been planned out. And a lot of the work that we do is often with either content that's been filmed by a company themselves, helping them through that process, or embracing the story behind it, because that's where a lot of the help is needed, is finding the right story and finding the right content rather than loading in thousands of pounds worth of equipment to film something. That's not necessarily needed. So having that more personal approach is, I think, where we're going with content, far more engaging, and also just more authenticity. I think that's the key word. I think the younger generations can see through a lot of the, I guess, branding and falseness in marketing, and that's where companies still need to wake up to that. Is I don't mean that in an impolite way, but it's a very slow process to move over to something where actually you don't need to, to I guess, over-egg to lie about things. You have to be honest and straightforward. And I think that honesty has actually cut through an awful lot of noise on social media.
Yeah. If I look back at organisations and their adverts in magazines or their adverts on TV, they used to spend significant amount of money for that advert. They don't need to nowadays. They could create the content very, very quickly, and it could go out to more people globally. You could become a global business very, very quickly. As long as you're saying the right things, obviously, we all know what it's like to say the wrong thing. Recently with the news of the Oscars. Well, we're going to get in a lot of trouble here because we keep mentioning the news, don't we? So we know that the wrong things can be said. So I think that's the nervousness of organisations regarding saying the wrong thing, and it being going in the wrong direction regarding what they're trying to get over. And I like the way you say about the story, getting the story right. And we are storytellers, and I think that sells businesses. That helps business to get from A to B.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think also the on the side of authenticity, as we've seen as I say in the news, touching on that again, but recent events in the entertainment world, it just goes to show how powerful it is to be down to earth and actually apologise for mistakes. And I think there's an awful lot more reputational risk to not apologising for things when they go wrong. I think when a company turns around, or an individual in entertainment turns around and say, actually, I've made a mistake there. I'm sorry. And which we saw only just recently. And makes a big impact.
It does indeed. So where's the starting point for all this? As an organisation, how does an organisation start to actually embark on this program?
I think it starts with your employees. I think with the people in your organisation too. You need to have everybody aligned with your message, and to get the right impact. I think it starts with talking to everybody and everybody's views. Because I think if the employees, staff within the company are engaged and on board, I think that's a lot more powerful in terms of content. So I think there's two angles with staff engagement, but also being on key with the message. I think if your story is aligned with what's happening in the world, how people are engaged with certain issues, I find it amazing that companies still go down the wrong road with their message. It can be totally, it's not on point at all, and not in keeping with exactly what's happening, which is to be honest, it's very fast paced. It's with the industry, certainly in energy. I've never seen such a change so dramatic. In the last, we're just in the last 2 years, and certainly in the last few months with geopolitical events, that's a very fast-paced industry to keep up with.
And it's had different reasons. There's different reasons why we're in this crisis, and it's been building from well before Christmas. The whole scenario of this. You could look at the summer where we didn't have enough wind. We had quite a cold summer, so people was putting air heating on earlier with the gas. Before then, the government decided not to invest any more money in certain storage areas, so we wasn't storing so much gas. So then we lost some connections to Europe due to a fire. So everything was just started to snowball. We had the boat that got stuck in the canal, which caused all other boats to be redirected. It just accelerated, and then sort of lastly, we've had the Russian invasion crisis with Ukraine, etc., and that is just it's gone from one, and we've seen energy prices and in the region of 500% being increased by significant. I've even heard today that one of my customers is going to be charged 90 pence per unit. Good. Which is absolutely amazing. They're coming out of the 13 pence and they're going on to 90 pence because someone hasn't really focused on it. They took the eye off the ball. And, that's what happens with organizations. They focus, and the likes of yourself and what we do, the business itself, they've got a core business, whether they're making widgets, whether they're providing a service. They're focusing on that. They need to bring the experts in to support them, to build the strategies, to build the story, and to deliver those stories, really. And that's, I think you're at the right time here with what you're doing here with this this process, I think. Where do you think your challenges are going to be going forward?
I think the core part of it is putting that message across that about the story, because I think there's a lot of focus on just keeping an organisation going, and the vision is often on a very short-term basis rather than looking at the long term. And I think certainly with the power of social media, I think as we're seeing, is becoming so prevalent, but the results of that doesn't come through straight away. It's a long-term process of pushing out content to social media, and even though you don't immediately get engagement or feedback from the audience, over time it does work, getting messages across the engagement. So I think that's something that on a long-term basis, that's probably going to be, it's going to take time for that to change.
And we touched on this in the beginning. What's your real driver behind this, you personally?
I think, yes, from what I touched on earlier, to see the the situation I was in when I started in my career, how different the economy is now, how very different opportunities are. And it gives me so much, I mean, just personal joy to be able to help someone, to be able to put something useful on their CV. Because I remember when I first got, work experience to put on my CV, it was a joyous moment, and to have a good reference from someone. More so, I mean, that means more, I think, and that's more valuable than any hourly rate or charge or salary of any kind. It's getting the experience of something that counts. So to be able to have people with us who are really struggling, they're really getting through difficult times, and we're very conscious of what's going on in their personal lives. If people can't join us on a filming schedule, we're very, if it's last minute, they say, I'm sorry, we can't turn up. It's absolutely fine. Don't have any issues with that, because we know that their housing situation can change overnight. It's a lot of challenges, and certainly the reliance on these people by family members, looking after additional family members, that can be the case as well. So, to be able to have people with us on a shoot, on a project where we can pay them, give them experience and train them. That's been the primary enjoyment from this.
I can sense that in your voice, Ben. I can sense how you're feeling about that. I can really feel that.
It was quite interesting because we were with a client a few months ago where they wanted to. They asked us to give us sort of an idea of sort of things we do, and both my co-founder and myself were sat there, and it just sort of came very naturally, all of the things that we're doing. And it was only afterwards I just thought, there's no script behind that. And it was very interesting how that ties in with certain aspects of our lives, like public speaking, being on camera. There's a lot of nervousness from other people being on camera. We experience that when we're filming. People get very nervous about being, but if you're talking about something you're passionate about, that nervousness
disappears.
For a lot of people, if it's something that just comes, naturally. And I think that's one of the things that we try and put across actually to people who are on camera with us. We just say, just talk from the heart. Don't worry about the script,
Exactly.
And then it all flows. That's
it's funny because a key part. I feel that because in 2019, someone told me that I need to do more videos on my LinkedIn. And I went, there's no way I'm going to do videos. I said, listen to my voice. I'm an East End boy. I sound like Ian Bill. Many people, my audience might not know who Ian Bill is, but he's from EastEnders, yeah? So I can't do that. Anyway, so she said, well, just tell me what you do. You can do that, can't you? And I said, yeah, of course I can. She put the phone into my face. I just rattled off very quickly what I did. She played it back to me. And I thought, you know what? That's pretty good. I could put that onto LinkedIn. It needed some touching up, but as long as you're talking about what you know and how, if it's the passion from that, it works, and if we all did that, the messages will go out there very, very well, I'm sure.
Yeah. And also I think we beat ourselves up too much about making mistakes.
Of course we do.
I think that's a huge common theme amongst us all as humans. This is a human thing to mess up. And I think we are too quick to criticize people who do mess up when actually it's a really core part of authenticity. And, if somebody goes up on stage and says, oh, actually, I'm very nervous, that doesn't go, oh, we don't want this person to speak.
Yeah.
It's actually like
everyone starts booing him. He starts to boo. Boo, get off if you're nervous. We want professional presentations.
We want professional speakers,
yeah.
But actually, it's the opposite,
Exactly.
People can resonate with that because everyone's like, well, actually, it's a hugely brave thing.
Yeah, well done for you for doing that. Yeah.
If people mess up, it's like, it's all right, we're with you, we're rooting for you because
exactly.
It's taking part rather than the mistakes on the way.
Okay.
We're human.
Well, Ben, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put you right on the spot, and I'm going to ask you to sort of speak from your heart and be passionate and just say it as it is. But so it's at this stage where I ask my guests to give something back to our audience and to the industry as a takeaway. So is there something you can give back today as some advice to our audience today?
I think the core thing which I've found more and more on this journey, I guess, is to do what you're passionate about and to not worry about the mistakes. It's actually, we were just talking about that, funnily enough, but the one thing that I've realized is that to accept that things are scary. Things, there are things that give us all, there's like a fear factor with a lot of things that we do. But the sort of the joy of life is to pushing out those boundaries, to get over that comfort zone, and to go into the unknown. And I think that's the biggest thing that's in terms of a business journey. That's actually something as a personal thing that I've picked up on, and I would without a doubt encourage anyone else who's thinking of trying something new. It doesn't matter what time it is, just do it, to try something new and just test it, because you never know. I think you're far better to have failed at it. At least you can look back and think, yeah, I did try that.
No regrets.
No regrets. And there's so many ventures that I've tried in the past that have all flopped, and lots of stress and money has gone into them. But actually, I look back and think, I don't care. I'm not bothered about the fact they failed, because there's little nuggets of things I've learned from each failure, and I don't mind what people think if something's failed. I did it. I'm glad I tried it.
Yeah. I said the same thing to myself when I started these podcasts. I'm now on episode 76. I've recorded right out to nearly episode 80 now. And I'm really pleased that I've done it. It's the best thing I've ever done, doing these podcasts. Do people listen? Have I got a load of listeners? I'm not too sure who my listeners are. Occasionally I get good feedback on sort of on LinkedIn to say, "I'll keep going." It's amazing what you feel. I feel as though I'm on my own sometimes, just behind the mic. But it's amazing how, if I hadn't done it, what would I be thinking now? If I was sitting back thinking, "Oh, I wish I'd done that podcasting sort of process." And I'm glad I did. But Ben, sorry about that. But I'd like to say thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Great hearing your story. I really enjoyed our chat offline as well about some history around where we live. So it's really good. Perhaps we should do another podcast another time and talk about the history of what we've found in our lives as such and where we live. So I'd like to say thank you very much for coming, and please, at this time, you and your family, please be safe.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you very much.